What is up, everybody? Today I'm going to be showing you how to paint your own pair of shoes in 2025. So this is going to be a video for beginners, so I'm going to show you what supplies you need, what steps to take, and showing you some of the techniques that I've learned over the past 6 years of me creating my own pairs of custom shoes and selling them all over the world. Now this pair in particular is leather. I'm working on the Air Jordan 1, and I'm going to be showing you everything I know about painting this type of shoe, but this applies to any other leather. There are different techniques to different shoes, and if this video does well, I can definitely do that as well, showing you how to paint on cleats and mesh on canvas. But we're gonna start with these leather shoes, and I'm gonna teach you everything I know so you can paint your own pair at home. Okay, so the first thing you gotta do is unlace your shoes, because if you get paint on these laces, you're gonna have to replace them. So just save yourself some money and take these laces out, because you don't wanna have to buy new laces. And these are already laced pretty much fully down, so all I have to do, takes 2 seconds to take these out. Definitely take these out. You can just put them back in. It takes you 5 minutes to put them back in, but apparently 15 to get them out, because this knot is huge. Okay, this is comical. Okay, and there's another knot. Once you have those laces out, you're gonna want some acetone. Okay, so once you have your acetone, you're gonna want some cotton balls as well. So right now we have our pair of shoes, acetone, cotton balls, pair of shoes, acetone, cotton balls. Anyway, you're gonna take the cotton ball, dip it in the acetone, and you're gonna scrub down the whole shoe with acetone. You're gonna do one pass, you're gonna let them sit for 10 minutes, you're gonna come back, you're gonna do a second pass. This is allowing the pores to open up, and you're taking that factory finish off the shoe and allowing the paint to adhere. This is so important, probably the most important part, actually the most important part, because you need to prep the shoes so it's wearable. So if you plan on wearing your shoes, you need to do what I'm about to tell you right. I also recommend wearing some sort of like mask. I wear this mask. Oh, I got it off Amazon. I don't know what it's called, so just look at it and find it. Anyway, also ventilate the area. Open a window. Do not smell this stuff. It's not good for you. A lot of warning signs on the back, so ventilate the area. Okay, so after you've gone through with your acetone, 2 passes, make sure you hit every spot. You're gonna want to get some tape and tape up any spots that you don't want paint on. So here's one tip: do not paint the rubber outsole right here. Don't paint it, don't paint it, don't paint it, because the paint won't stick to it. So it's rubber, it will crack, don't paint it. Did I mention don't paint it? Okay, so when it comes to tape, there's many different things you can use. Here's what I use and what works for me. I use this Scotch Blue original 3M tape. You can buy it off at Amazon. And then I also use this general purpose Scotch tape. It has a little bit stronger of a hold, and this can sometimes leave a little bit of residue on the soles, but all you have to do is heat it up and you can wipe it away with your finger. I know some people don't like that residue, some people use different tapes, but these are what work for me. Always feel free to try out any different types of tapes that you want and find what works for you. Like I said, feel free to use any tape you want, but I use this tape right here. I just take one piece at a time, and I use my fingernail to lay it down flat and get it nice and crisp on the edge. And I lay it down, and then I just fold it over, and I just do that till the whole outsole is covered. So that's how I tape up my outsoles. Works pretty good. Okay, so now I'm using this tape right here to tape up the sock liners, because I don't want any paint on the sock liners. I'm actually gonna be airbrushing today, but you don't have to airbrush. You can hand paint with a brush if that's all you have available. I did say this was for beginners, so if that's all you have available, this is a pair I'm doing for a client, so I'm gonna show you with the airbrush, but it works any other way. I'll tell you how to do either way. I use this tape right here to tape up these sock liners when I don't want any paint on the liner. It works really good. It sticks really well. This is 3M Scotch contractor grade. It sticks very well to the sock liners and doesn't allow paint to seep under. So use that tape if you want to tape up the sock liners. Okay, before I start painting, I'm going to show you guys what paint I use. I use Angelus leather paint. It's the best paint that I've ever used on shoes, and I use it on every project. I have all these different colors. So I would highly suggest heading over to angelus.com and picking up Angelus paint for your customs. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to paint a pair. So I'm going to be using an airbrush, but I'm going to teach you the same rules apply, pretty much the same rules apply when hand painting as well. And you guys can ignore the stickers unless you want to follow along with how I'm doing things, if you're doing like a character. So I'm doing a Tom and Jerry pair. So I had a Cricut machine that I cut the stencil out of vinyl. I lay it down and then I'm gonna spray the background, and then I'm gonna peel it up, and I'm gonna have a perfect outline of the characters to paint in. I'm gonna show you a way to do it without having the Cricut machine too, once I peel this up. So if you're not there, you're just beginner, you can ignore this step. But you can also ignore the airbrush, because I'm gonna show you how to paint it with just a paintbrush as well. But I have my airbrush here, and I have my paint here. So either way, if you're painting with a brush or an airbrush, just remember on the first coat, you have to go super light so the paint has a chance to adhere to something instead of just like coating it very heavy. You don't want to coat your first coat heavy. You don't really want to coat any coat heavy for painting shoes, but you can go heavier on the second, third, fourth, fifth coat. So I'm just lightly getting it to look like, you know, there's color somewhere. I mean, it's hard to see because I'm painting a very light color here on a white shoe, but you should not go heavy on your first coat. Okay, so if you're just watching me airbrush and you're thinking, I don't have an airbrush, why is this helpful? Here's something you can do. You can take the paintbrush, it's the same thing, and you're just gonna lightly just brush it on. Very, very thin coat to start, and that's really all you have to do. And you just repeat that. You let it dry for 10 minutes after the first coat, and then you paint the next coat on, you let it dry, then you paint the next coat on, you let it dry until you got your desired coat. My suggestion, if you're gonna use a heat gun or a hairdryer, use a hairdryer, because a heat gun has too intense of heat and can burn a hole in some materials. I've been there, done that. So I found that using a hairdryer, any hairdryer, works way better. Okay, now you guys are seeing the process. You paint a coat, you let it dry, you paint a coat, you let it dry until you get the color you want. So here we are gonna add our second coat. And I'm actually gonna turn my booth on so it filters out. So if you're following along and you're just painting your shoe a solid color or just trying to do a colorway, you're good to go. If you want to skip to the end of the video, I'll show you what finisher I use to seal up the paint. But if you're doing like a character or a logo or something like that, and you don't want to draw it out, I have a method for you. This method is tracing. I sometimes will cut out a piece of paper or print it out, cut it out, and I literally just trace it down. You don't need to have the cutout if you don't have a stencil machine. You can just do this. A lot of people come to me and say, I don't know how to draw, how am I supposed to make a pair of shoes? You can do this method. You lay this down, you trace it out, and you just cut out each piece, like the ear, trace it. And there's a big debate in the art world of whether or not tracing is cheating, and tons of artists are on one side, tons of artists on the other side. And here's what I have to say about that. If you're going to draw, it's going to take you a lot longer. And when you're an artist, time is money, because you get paid when you finish the project. So you try to reduce the amount of hours you work on it drastically if you can. And so it would take me a lot longer, which I can, but it would take me a lot longer to draw it out rather than just trace it real quick and then start painting. Because ultimately the main skill, in my opinion, is painting it in. So don't feel bad if you have to use this method, because it saves you a lot of time. So after using that method I just showed you guys, I have everything all traced out and drawn in. So now it's basically just a game of paint between the lines. So now I'm just going to be finishing up the shoe, and while I'm showing you guys the process of me finishing this, I'm going to be showing you guys some of the paints or the tools I use for like outlines and stuff, and then at the end I'll show you what I use to finish up a pair of shoes, what to seal them up with so that they are good to go, protected, and wearable. I'm at the point where I'm ready to use my black outliner to outline the characters, so I have these painted in, and I'm going to show you guys what I use. So I'm going to start off with, I would not use this brand to paint a whole pair of shoes because the paint will chip and it will scratch off. Use the paint that I showed you, but I use this Posca, P-O-S-C-A paint pen. It's a 0.7 millimeter tip, and it works really good. I've never had an issue with it on outlines, so if you're looking for a good outliner and you don't want to use a paintbrush, this pen works great. Okay, so once your shoe is all painted, you're gonna wanna seal it up with something. So I use this matte Angelus acrylic finisher, and I run it through my airbrush, but you don't have to run it through the airbrush. You can just brush it on, but the same rules apply. You're gonna do one light coat, brushing it on, and then you're gonna let it dry, and then you're gonna repeat that process. So I'm gonna do that. And now we're just letting them dry, but this is my reminder that you don't have to use a matte finish. It's just what I like to use on my customs. You can use any finish you want. You can do gloss, you can do matte, you can do semi-gloss, but I like matte because it makes it look factory. So here's what we got. We're gonna let them dry, and then we're gonna lace them up, and then we're all done. Here's what I landed on for this pair. This was a client commission. I got Tom and Jerry on both sides, and then I have the font on the toe. I really like how the colors came out, so you'll have to let me know what you guys think of these. But most importantly, thank you guys for watching, and like I said, if you have any questions, leave them down below.